Hello, my life matters to Jesus family. Thank you for joining me. So today I just really wanted to pour into some people that I know are probably struggling right now, especially with the holiday season. And I just want to let you know that you are not alone. So as a Christian woman, there was a time when I was suffering with depression and anxiety. And to let the truth be told, I didn't even know that I was suffering with depression and anxiety until I actually was like watching an infomercial, and this commercial came on just letting people know like what the symptoms were, and they were like, you cry all the time, and I'm like, that's me. Or you always have a negative outlook, everything is glass half empty instead of glass half full. And I'm like, that's me. And so everything that they would say I could identify with. And so that's when I realized I am a Christian woman that's been in church all my life, who is dealing with depression and anxiety. Ended up going to the doctor, and I was diagnosed with that. And I remember how it felt at that time, because I did not feel like I had anybody to go and talk to, because I was a Christian woman. And in the church, you're not supposed to have these feelings. You're supposed to be full of joy. You're supposed to be happy. And I was not that. And I couldn't understand why I could not have that. And so I let all of the thoughts about me being I'm not a good enough Christian, my faith is not good enough, I'm not reading my Bible enough, I'm not trusting God enough, all those things, even though some of them were true, especially about trusting God, I let those things bring me into a place of condemnation. And so there is a big difference between condemnation and conviction. Conviction is going to be from the Lord. That's going to be Him telling you, this is where you're going wrong, and this is where I need you to straighten up and do something different. Condemnation, though, was when you feel guilt and you feel shame, when the enemy brings to you the things that you have done wrong, and instead of you giving it to God and saying, yeah, Lord, I messed up, this is what I did, forgive me, you take on that condemnation and you allow it to make you feel shame and guilt, and you ultimately end up hiding from the Lord. And so that's what I did. I secluded myself. I shut myself off from people, and I tried to handle it on my own, right? So I just want to encourage you and give you 5 things that I did to completely eradicate that from my life. I can honestly say today that I am free from depression and anxiety. And I need you to understand that I was at a place where I was in a mental ward, okay? I was in a mental ward. I had to take my shoelaces out of my shoes. There was a knife watch out on me, put all the knives away, all those things. So I have been there, and you may not be in that place where you are about to go to a mental ward, but you may feel like something is not right, like you just can't get a grip on things, like no matter what you do, no matter what you say, these thoughts that keeps coming back to your mind, maybe thoughts that you're worthless, that your family would be better off without you, or just thoughts that you're not good enough. And so those things can really come up on us, especially around the holidays. So I want to show you some of the things that I did to get me from completely in a desperate situation, feeling low, feeling like I could not recover, to a place where I'm good. Like, I realized that I am free today. I am free today. So I did take notes because I just want to make sure I don't miss anything for you guys. But one thing that I know now is that Christian women, there's like 80 million Christian women right now. I'm not talking about just women in general. I'm talking about Christian women who are suffering from depression and anxiety. Over 80 million. And I'm going to say that that number is probably higher because most people suffer in silence because they're afraid to tell anybody. They're afraid of what people will think. And so one thing that I did when I was suffering with that, especially after I went to the doctor and I got my diagnosis. I would always walk around, and when I was talking to my friends and when I was talking to my family, I would tell them, yeah, I'm depressed. I'm depressed. I'm anxious. I have anxiety and all those things like that. So one of the things that I did right off the bat is that I identified with that thing. So that was a mistake. That was something that I should not have done. What I should have done was state what it was that I was dealing with, but not to declare that that thing was a part of me, like a part of my identity. You can suffer from depression, but that doesn't mean that your entire being is depressed. You are not depressed. You suffer from depression. It's kind of like if you have a cold, you would not go around and tell people, I'm a cold. I'm a big snotty, crying, running nose. You wouldn't walk around and tell people I'm a cold. You would say, I have a cold. And you would say that because you know that your cold is going to run its course and it's going to leave. We have to have that same mindset when it comes to depression and anxiety. It is not something that once you get it, you have to have it for the rest of your life. And no, I'm not a clinical therapist or anything like that, but I do know one thing, and that is that God can heal, and there is deliverance for every single ailment out there. And we have to know that. We have to know that, and we have to go to God and ask him for that deliverance. And so that's why when you are telling people or explaining to people what you're going through, try your best not to identify with that thing. Try your best not to say, I'm depressed, I'm anxious, I'm this or I'm that. You have to really trick your mind into believing what the Lord has said about you instead. And so you say, I have the mind of Christ. I have the mind of Christ. I think I said that over myself so many times when I was going through depression. It had to have been at least 2 years that I really battled with it. And once I understood that the things that I said is what would be, that is when I started declaring over myself. And I would literally lay my hands on my head and I would say, I have the mind of Christ. I have the mind of Christ. And guess what? God is not, there's no brain fog in God. Jesus Christ doesn't have thoughts of suicide. He doesn't have thoughts to harm himself. He doesn't have thoughts that he's not good enough. He doesn't have thoughts that that he's, that he'll never be healed. He doesn't have those thoughts. And so I had to realign myself and know that whenever there was something that came into my mind, I would have to determine, is this the Lord or is it not? And if it wasn't, then I knew what to do with those things. So first you have to make sure that you do not identify with the depression and the anxiety. It's okay and it's healthy to even say, yes, I'm dealing with this, but it is not okay to make that your identity. Number 2, the second thing that I did was I realized the power that I had over my mind, and that I had the power over my mind. It wasn't, oh, well, this thing came up on me, this is what I'm dealing with, so this is just it. That is not true. The Bible says to renew your mind, and you do that by reading the word. You do that by following the Lord. You can renew your mind. And it also, like I said earlier, says that you have the mind of Christ. You have to realize that. You have to realize that you are not powerless. You are not just left there at your own devices and this thing is on you trying to suck your joy and the life out of you, and you just have to sit there and take it. Nobody said that you have to sit there and take it. Nobody said that you have to be on medicine for the rest of your life. This is not something that you have to be on medicine for the rest of your life. The Lord delivered me from medicine about a year after I started it. To give you more detail about that. So I had my first child, right? I had my second child. I already had one kid and I had a second child. And during that pregnancy, on top of depression, I got postpartum depression. And so with that, I had to get on medicine. And after the baby was born, that's when everything just happened. It was the worst. Okay, I got on my medicine and I started taking it. Some of it was good, some of it was bad. One thing that you will have to do if you're suffering from this and you do get on medication is you might have to change medication. Some of it may make you sleepy or whatever, and it's okay. It is totally okay to have to change medications in the course of your therapy. And so my husband decided to get a vasectomy, and I'm telling you, we thought that we were done having kids. One of the reasons that we decided to get the vasectomy is because I had such a hard time with battling depression with the second child. And so 9 months after the vasectomy, guess who gets pregnant? Me. I get pregnant. And everybody is like, what in the world? Like, you just got out of a mental hospital. How in the world are you going to have a baby? And people even came up to me and were like, you just got out of a mental hospital. Are you sure that you want to have this baby? Like, you don't have to. We really want to keep you on your medicine. How are you going to survive this? And, like, we literally just had you on knife watch just a while ago. And that is, at that moment, it's like God had been talking to me enough for me to realize that He would take care of me. So I had a choice. I could either get on my medicine or I could have my baby. But I couldn't do both. I could either stay on my medicine or stay with the pregnancy. And I wasn't giving up my baby, right? And so I decided to keep my baby. And I did not take the medicine. And when I tell you that God carried me through that time, I did not feel depressed. I went through, I was still going through counseling and therapy and things like that, but I did not feel depressed. And so that showed me at that time that although I was taking the medicine, my help truly was coming from the Lord. It was truly, really coming from the Lord. And so that's when I stepped into the realization that I had more power over this thing than I originally thought, because I made a decision to get off the medicine in order to have my baby, where everyone else thought that the power lied in the medicine. I knew that the power lied in God helping me. And so that was a pivotal moment in my journey. And so that is perfect for you to understand. Like, you have to realize that you have more power than what you think you have. Number 3, the third thing that I did while I was on my healing journey was I exercised. And I know that seems like the last thing that you want to do when you're feeling low, you're feeling down, you're depressed and things like that. You do not want to exercise. I remember one day I was sitting on the couch and I was crying and I just felt so low. I just felt like I was at the bottom of the earth, if that makes sense. Like, there was nothing that could bring me joy. There was nothing that could truly bring me peace. And I felt bad because I had just had a new baby and I still felt horrible. I could not find any peace. And my husband, he got up and he turned on a workout video for me. And I just looked at him. He's like, get up. That's what he told me. He said, get up and work out. Just do it. And he took me up by the hands and he made me stand up. And I slowly started working out or whatever. And then before I know it, I was actually working out. And when I was finished with that 30-minute workout, I got this burst of energy. And that is when I realized, wait a minute, that actually pulled me out of the slump that I was in. So that is something tangible that you can do. Move your body. when you are depressed and when you're feeling low, you're feeling bad, the enemy wants you to stay in a dark place. He wants you to be attracted to dark things. He wants you to stay stagnant. He wants you to be still. He doesn't want you out getting fresh air. He doesn't want any of that, because the more that you stay there stagnant in that one place, not moving, not doing anything, your heart rate is not fluctuating or anything, you're going to stay stuck. So that is something that I would absolutely recommend. Although I know you don't want to do it. I know you don't want to do it. And then that leads me to point 4, which is you are an active participant in your healing. Sometimes we can feel as though, because we have been diagnosed with this, that we have to just wait until the medicine works. Oh, I hope the medicine works. I'm taking this medicine. I hope it works. I'm doing my therapy. Hopefully it'll work one day. I'm just going to stay in the same place that I'm in until I start to feel better. But the truth is, you have to be an active participant in your healing. You have to actively open your mouth. You have to actively force yourself to do things that you don't really want to do, such as working out, such as speaking over your mind, such as making sure that you're not declaring over yourself that you are depressed or that you have anxiety, and really start to shift what you are relating yourself to. You are an active participant. While God can come down and completely deliver you and pull you out of it, yes, that's possible. But at the same time, you have to work at it daily. And you can only work at it daily out of a love for yourself. If you truly don't love yourself, you won't work for this. But just because you don't love yourself does not mean you're not loved. Loving yourself is key to getting out of depression. I remember that one time I was in therapy, and the therapist asked me, what is one thing, or name three things that you are grateful for today. I literally could not think of anything. Nothing at all. I could not think of not one thing that I was grateful for. Not one. And I sat there, and it made me feel horrible, because I had 3 kids and a husband. And I'm like, I'm not grateful for them. And so there was a time in the therapy, I would just pass that question. I'm like, I don't have anything. As the days went on, people would start paying me compliments. They would start giving me compliments about certain things that I would say in therapy or do for them and things like that. This one lady, she told me that I was very kind and nice, and even though I was going through such a hard time, I was still very comforting to her. And so what I decided to do is I wrote that down. I wrote down everything that she said, and I made a little box while I was in therapy. And I started putting in, every time I would get a compliment, I would start writing it down and putting those compliments in there. And it wasn't for any reason other than I needed a reminder of the good things about me. I needed a reminder. I needed to be able to look at something tangible and say, oh, I am nice. I am comforting. I am sincere. I am a pleasure to be around. Because if you left it up to me and my thoughts, I was like, I ain't got nothing. I ain't got nothing good about myself. I don't have nothing to be happy for or anything. Because it's literally a block on your mind. And you may not be this bad. You may not have, gone to this level. But some people have. So, that's one thing that I would say, is to realize, first of all, that you have power to shift your circumstances. And so even if that looks like you writing down the good things about your life, the good things about yourself, the compliments that you're getting, and saving them in a box and referring back to them when you need it, you do what you have to do. There are things that you can do to pull yourself out. Number 5, Be careful of what you watch and gravitate to. So I'm just going to tell you a quick story. So there was a lady that I used to be in the mental ward with. I was only in there for 1 week, but I promise I have like 20 years worth of stories to tell about my time being in the mental ward, right? And so now I can kind of laugh about it, because I remember on my way in there, I was so embarrassed, and I was like, how is this possible? And I'm a horrible wife, I'm a horrible mom, how does this happen? And everybody's going to laugh at me, everybody's going to find out. And by the time I got out of the mental ward, I did not want to leave. I was like, what? We got breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We got recess. Like, do I have to go home? Like, I was in such a place where I was like excited, and my mind had rested over that time that I was in there. So anyway, one of the ladies that I was in the mental ward with, I happened to come up on her profile on Facebook the other day. Now, this is 10 years ago, okay? I've been free from depression and anxiety over 10 years, right? But I still use the same practices today that I did then to stay out of it. But I happened to see her Facebook, and she had a lot of reels on there. And so I started going to her reels and just looking at her reels. And one thing that I noticed was that every reel she had was dark. Every reel she had was sad and negative. And it was talking about how other people, what they think about you, and how to process that, and missing someone. And what I never saw was anything light, anything bright, anything encouraging. And so you have to realize that if you are in a state of depression and all that you do is gravitate to darkness, guess what you're going to get? You're going to get darkness. You have to shift. If you are depressed, you should not be watching scary movies. You should not be watching murder mysteries and trials and stuff online. You shouldn't be watching people getting murdered. And you might say, well, I just like that and I just gravitate more to it. Yeah, that's because depression likes depression. Darkness likes darkness. So you have to be a part of your healing and decide, I am not going to do that anymore. I'm not going to watch that. I don't care if you have to turn on the craziest movie, the funniest movie. For me, the funny movie that I used to always gravitate to was Coming to America. So I would watch that on repeat, because I knew that if I kept watching things and gravitating towards things, that was going to feed my disillusionment about myself, because it is disillusionment. Every time that you get these thoughts that you are less than, or that you are not who God says you are, or that your life will never get better, you'll always be broke, you can't do anything right, nobody loves you, everybody leaves you, all that stuff is a lie from the enemy. And so you have to know when to separate yourself. You have to know where the lie is. You have to catch the lie. You have to be aware of the lie. If you're not aware of the lie, then you're going to just take the lie and you're just going to feed off of it. And you don't have to. You don't have to. It's not a necessity that every thought that comes into your mind that you take hold of it. Right? So I need you to understand that you have more power than you think that you do. You have more power than you think that you do. You have the mind of Christ, whether it's exhibiting itself every day right now or not. You have the power to bring those things down, to bring every lie that the enemy gives you down, and you do it by the word of God. And so I realized that everybody is not versed on the word of God. Everybody, you may not even own a Bible, right? And so maybe you're like, well, Cherry, I hear you. I see how I'm doing some of these things, and some of these things are not, they're keeping me in this broken place, but maybe you're not a Christian. So I got something for you. I have in the comments where you can go, and it's a free ebook that's going to kind of help you to figure out how to get to that place of knowing what to say, how to say it, how to pray, what to say over yourself. And so this is really going to help you to get to that next level in your healing. And let me just say, if you need to go to the doctor, go to the doctor. If you need therapy, if you need medication, take your medication. And every time that you take a pill, pray over it. Ask the Lord, say, Lord, let this medicine do what it needs to do in my body. Pray over it. Don't reject the help. Doctors, medication, all that stuff is from the Lord too. But he can pull you completely out of needing any of it by just his biblical principles that he has in his word. So that is all I have for you today. I hope that somebody got something out of this. If you did, drop it in the comments and let me know what things kind of resonated with you. And thank you.